Ohio State is moving in the wrong direction to be an NCAA tournament lock, but there's still time to turn the tide.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to a bonus episode of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast. Part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now the number one sports podcast network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, Veggie Sports Talk host, delivering passionate coverage about your Buckeyes. And during this hardwood huddle, we will discuss players that must step up for the Buckeyes to make the NCAA tournament. But first, one of the goals the Buckeye basketball team had this year was to make the NCAA tournament. And Jake Diebler put the roster together via his high school recruiting and some portal additions to be a roster that has more than enough talent to make the big dance. And unfortunately, the Buckeyes continue to trend in the wrong direction. And it's one that has a lot of Ohio State fans pessimistic about not only this year, but the future of Buckeye basketball. However, there is still time for this team to turn the tide, flip the page to what's coming up next, which is a home game against USC. And that could be the start of the Buckeyes moving up the ladder and moving up to make sure they are a lock to make the NCAA tournament. A team right now that has just not been putting it together. They still don't have a quad one win. Their record isn't really amazing at 15-8. They're, I believe, 7-6 in Big Ten play. That could very easily be a losing record in Big Ten play coming up very, very soon over the next few weeks. As the rest of the month of February, the Buckeyes had some very tough games. But the Buckeyes must find ways, one, to draw up plays to allow guys to get some early and quick shots. Sometimes guys look at defense and defense fuels your offense. But there are times you're a basketball player and you see the ball go through the hoop a couple of times early in the game, and it fuels you. And it not only fuels you on offense to move a little bit more, to have a little bit more bounce on the court, to be a little bit more crisper with your follow through on your jump shot, but also it helps you defensively. And I think sometimes when you don't see the ball go through the hoop early in the game, it can derail your own personal morale, not overall team morale, but you individually, inside of who you are thinking, man, if I can't get this shot down, I ain't about to go back there and hustle on defense. If I can get this floater, man, I'm not going to try to stop that guy going baseline. I'm not going to try and do these things because I can't put the ball in the basket. Well, that's the beauty of basketball. It's a five-man. There are 5 men on the court. And if you can't get it done, you believe someone else on the team can. Now, I think the issue with Ohio State is sometimes if one guy struggles, a few guys struggle, and then you look at Mr. Consistency and Bruce Thornton, you're thinking he has to carry the load, and that's not the reality of basketball. It's not the reality of this team. Bruce Thornton is a great player. There's nothing else I can say to describe him but him being a great player. But he can't do it all himself. He can't be the point guard and be a guy scoring 80 points a game to make sure that Ohio State does everything needed to win. No, he can't be that guy. So you're going to need certain players to step up, but ultimately you just got to lay it all on the line. Act like you were when you're playing pickup basketball. And many of us have played pickup basketball when you get out there. Maybe you're lucky enough to get there when the games first start, 5-on-5, a couple guys pick the teams, and then next thing you know, way we used to play, first 11 win by 2, and your team, it's 9-9. You know, you got a dude over there that's a shooter, and you're trying to do everything you can to make sure that you stay locked up on him. If you have to double team him, you double team him to make sure that he passes that ball up so it's 10-9 instead of 9-11. Game is over. And when you're playing pickup basketball, you also know if you lose, you're off the court. And if there are a lot of guys out there, you might not see the court for a few games. So you're literally trying to do everything you can to make sure you stay on the court, and not only stay on the court, but to prove yourself to everybody else that you have what it takes, that you are a dude. You are somebody that they can trust. And I think sometimes when you get to just basketball outside of the pickup setting, sometimes you lose sight of that aspect to look inward and say, we have to do everything we can to stay on the court. And you could look at the NCAA tournament, and it's the same thing as pickup basketball. Now, there are multiple games left, unlike a pickup basketball game where it's one game. You could be one and done. You could be two and done. But the concept can be similar to where Ohio State right now is kind of like that guy that's tied 9-9 in a game of pickup basketball, and the other team has a lot of shooters. And if they are not locked in defensively, game's over. They're off the court, and they might not be back for a few games. Ohio State's basketball team, they have some winnable games. They have some toss-up games. They have some games that they're going to be underdogs. But they have to look at every single game and say, we are tied 9-9, and everybody on the other side, they got shooters. And we have to make sure that we are locking in collectively to make sure that we are going to win this game. We pull off some upsets to make ourselves a lock for the NCAA tournament. A couple of weeks ago, I believe Mike DeCourcy had Ohio State as a potential 11 seed in the NCAA tournament. And when I saw that, I didn't believe it. Not going to lie to you. I didn't believe it at all, because what I had seen from this team, the way they were trending in my head, I said, that's nonsense. That's not reality. But he's a bracketologist, and that's what he believes the Buckeyes are going to be at the end of the day. All of a sudden now they're teetering on either being a part of the first four in, or on the part of the first four out. That's where they currently are. In last night's game, yesterday afternoon's game, doesn't help at all with the bracketologists and the committee members that are putting the field of 68 together, especially when you don't have a quad one win. So Bruce Thornton, Kristoff Tilly, Devin Royal, Amari Bynum, I can list the whole roster, Jake Diebler as well. They all must treat this like they're playing a pickup basketball every game. It's one and done. You could go out there and play, and if you lose, you're out. If you win, you have a chance to move closer to staying on the court. And simply staying on the court is not making the Big Ten tournament. Staying on the court is making the big dance in March, the NCAA tournament. The Buckeyes have a shot. They literally still have a shot to make that tournament, but they must act like they're playing pickup basketball, and they must lay it all on the line and realize if you lose this game, you might not be able to stay on the court. And these guys at Ohio State, I have a good feeling they want to stay on the court. The guys that want to stay on the court is the entire team, but there are some specific players that must step up to make sure the Buckeyes make the NCAA tournament at the end of the day. We will dive into a few of those players after the break. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The Winter Games are officially here, and if you're anything like us, you're locking in for events you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. And that's why following the Winter Games on FanDuel just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports you care about most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action. The drama of curling, matches that start slow and somehow get intense fast. Speed skating races decided by inches, hockey games that feel different right from the opening faceoff. Even niche events become must-watch when you're fully locking into the competition. The Winter Games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. This episode is also brought to you by our friends at Mazda. This is Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. And once again, this week's moving the game forward player is Bruce Thornton. He's been a phenomenal leader this year during his senior campaign, but he's been a great Buckeye. And if there were a block gold jersey for the basketball team, it has to go to Bruce Thornton. He has been an iron Buckeye in leadership and really not missing many games. He has been a phenomenal scorer, phenomenal orchestrator of the offense. He is currently 6th all-time in Buckeye scoring, and he's 168 points away from breaking the school record for all-time scoring. These remind us of what it really takes to raise the bar. It's that extra work off the court, dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire, that grit, and I never quit. We put that same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. Thank you all for tapping into this bonus episode of Locked On Buckeyes and for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. It would be easy to look at Ohio State's basketball team this year and the way they played lately and say, yeah, Jay, there's no way. There's absolutely no way for them to make the NCAA tournament. You could be more on the pessimistic side. There is a way, but I am also on the pessimistic side that I don't think they're going to make it. However, they can prove me wrong. The guys on this team and the coaches on the coaching staff, they can prove me wrong and say, we hear you, Jay, but we have something else coming. And I hope they turn the tide. I hope they figure out a way to pick up some big wins down the stretch. And for them to pick up some big wins down the stretch, Bruce Thornton has to be big. I mean, one of the best things that I learned about him early in his career was that he is the kind of lead guard that can take you far into the NCAA tournament. Also, he's the kind of lead guard that can get you to the tournament. Now, he's not a 30-point a game scorer, so it's not like he's going to be a combo, like that combo guard where he could potentially be a shooting guard or a scoring guard more than a traditional point guard. No, he is still more of a traditional point guard, but he knows how to use his 6'2", 250-pound frame to utilize angles, not be someone that falls when contact is hitting him. But there are things that Bruce Thornton has on the table that even Michigan having to have different guys defend Bruce Thornton is because of how this young man can be so elite on the basketball court that they have to throw different wrinkles at him to throw him off his game. So Bruce Thornton, to me, is the first guy. If you want to talk about a guy that needs to play big down the stretch, he's played big all year. These all aren't guys that haven't played big. He's been phenomenal. He was literally the leading scorer just a day ago in the loss to Michigan. But he has to go to another level. And as he goes to another level, I hope that feeling and that energy translates over to his backcourt mate in John Mobley Jr., who didn't have a great game yesterday, not even really a good game. He struggled. I think he was 1 for 9 shooting. There were times in the second half where he was getting to the cup, drive to the lane, but the confidence wasn't there. He threw up a shot that was pretty bad. There's one moment that's in my head right now, and I'm thinking, that's not your game. But when his deep shot wasn't falling, it's always easier to try to get closer shots to fall to build your confidence to go back behind the three-point line. But when that layup wasn't falling and his deep shot wasn't falling, you can just see the confidence in his shot not being there. And I think for John Mobley Jr., one of the best things that can help him, especially like translating the offensive success to the defensive end, allow him to get some easy shots early. And I'm not talking about three-point shots. He's going to get open three-point shots just in the flow of the game, the way that he plays, and he can find his spots. I'm talking about inside the paint. If you can get John Mobley Jr. to get shots from 15 on in, and especially trying to get shots inside the paint, either slashing or cutting or driving while he's driving the ball, whatever the case may be, he has always seemed like a player that thrives when shots fall early. We hear about it in the NBA all the time. Jeff Teague, listen to his podcast, and other point guards that come on there. They always talk about how there are times when you need to get certain guys the ball early or you lose them for the entire game. You're thinking, Jay, the game in the NBA is full of 48 minutes on the court. Between the lines, you're going to lose somebody the entire game. Yeah, well, there are certain players that need to feel the rock. They need to feel like they're involved, and that helps them stay engaged. I think Mobley Jr. himself, when that shot starts to fall, that helps him on the defensive end. It takes pressure off of other guys, and it allows his game to be better. So Bruce Thornton to me and John Mobley Jr. to me, those are a couple of guys that have to play big. Kristoff Tilly, what game was it? Game against Maryland on the road. We came on, I believe it was that day, and said Tilly has to hit his averages of 11 and 5. I don't believe he got the 5 rebounds, but he did have 11 points. And you're going to have to get Tilly to have really 11 to 15 points. If you really need the high end, because if he's getting the high end, homie might shoot the 3. He has an okay shot. There were times against Michigan where I'm thinking, you're open, shoot the ball, but either he would drive or pass it off. And I'm thinking, even if you make it, if you shoot that shot and you make that three-pointer, that opens up so many different avenues for you and the other players on your team to attack Michigan and try to cut the deficit as quickly as possible. If you can get Kristoff Tilly, I don't know if he's going to do it. I don't know if he's not being asked to shoot. I have no idea, but something tells me if this young man starts shooting, it's going to be very, very big for the Buckeyes, and it will allow the offense to be more prolific and have different weapons they can utilize that they really haven't been using this year. The rest of the bench, you got to get 15 points off the bench easily. 15 to 20 would be great. If you stop it at an average 15 points a game, whoever the guys are that play off the bench, really, Debo's been using an 8-man rotation. That may change. I don't know the status of Brandon Noel's injury, but if he's able to return this year, plus Puff Johnson didn't play against Michigan either. If those two players can come back, that could easily be a 9 or 10-man rotation. And if that's the case, that 15 points might be low. I think I firmly believe losing Brandon Noel early hurt this team drastically, and that's a loss that they don't have an answer for. Now, if you lose a guy like that, you really don't have an answer, but this is not great for the team. If he can come back, it would be great for them to hit that mark off the bench at 15 a game. And I don't know if he's going to come off the bench or if they'll insert him back into the starting lineup and put Amari Bynum off the bench. And I honestly think there's a benefit of potentially putting Bynum off the bench because he is a very bouncy player. He brings some physicality, and he can also score a little bit. I mean, he could easily provide 8 to 10 points off the bench, and that would add a good boost for a unit that really doesn't score consistently. You got to get a lot from Bruce Thornton, Mobley Jr., Tilly, and the guys off the bench. If those players step up and play big, there's a good shot the Buckeyes will make the NCAA tournament. Can't forget one player is Devin Royal. You have to step up in a very big way on both ends of the court. The scoring is the easier part for him. Raising the energy and effort, that level there, that's the hard part. But that must be done too. If Devin Royal does those things, be a different scoring threat, but also have high energy and high effort on defense, look and see. Watch and see how the Buckeyes play against Virginia on Saturday, against Purdue and Michigan State down the road, especially Wisconsin coming to town. Look and see how they play if Devin Royal raises his energy and effort on the basketball court. Thank y'all for tapping to this bonus episode of Locked on Buckeyes. You can follow me on any social media platform at JStevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been Locked on Buckeyes on a Monday. We'll see you next time.